morning, sir.
Oh,
Yeah, good evening, sir.
all right. So, I know none of us was actually in our last class. I don't know if Mr. Jolly was in that class. I'm not sure. Mr. Jolly, I wanted to ask, how far have you gone with the video? Hope you are still going through the videos.
Yes, I'm still going with the video. I'm still going through the video. I've done the assignment for some if.
Okay.
Remain the multiple and some ifs. I needed to do that, then I'll now go to the other videos. So I just wanted to say that because I'm using that data you sent to me. So I just want to read all the questions and I'll just see the much I can do, then I'll forward them to you. But I'm still going through the videos.
All
I
right.
couldn't do it. I wanted to be successfully, but I'm just working directly from YouTube.
All right. So, I'll still encourage us to continue to put more efforts. I believe we will all get there. All right, so like I promised that today we are looking at the last topic. This is going to be our very last topic in Excel. So once we are done with this topic, we'll be moving to Python. So we are looking at mastering Excel pivot table. Mastering Excel pivot table. A guide to data analysis reporting. Now, just to give us a general introduction or an overview of what pivot table is as far as Excel is concerned. A pivot table is one of the powerhouse of statistical analysis functions in Excel. What I mean is that most of the statistical functions we use in analyzing data in Excel, they are wrapped in this function called the pivot table. The pivot table is the most powerful function in Excel. There is no other function that is more powerful than the pivot table. And some of the reasons why is most preferred for statistical or business analysis is that it has the ability of summarizing your data with numerous functions. And when using pivot table, you are not required to write any manual function, just like we have been doing since. All the functions are purely drag and drop, and then you get your answer. That is just an overview of it. So let's look at the definition properly. A pivot table is an Excel feature that allows you to summarize, analyze, exploit, and present data in a structured way. So the key words here are summarize, analyze, exploit, and present data in a structured way. So just to explain further, I said it helps transform large data sets into meaningful insights. Pivot tables are interactive and allow users to rearrange data dynamically. Now, when we talk about any tool in Excel or function in Excel that can be used to create a dynamic and an interactive dashboard, then you should be talking about pivot table. What does it mean for a dashboard to be interactive and to be dynamic. The dashboard is one single interface that connects multiple models for reporting. Now, in other words, one environment of a cell or a dedicated sheet in a cell just to highlight all the insights you have been able to draw from the given data sets. Now, those reports, for them to be interactive, it means that one is connected to the other. That is the interactivity we are talking about. In other words, what happened to one will automatically influence some changes in the other one. Now, for a dashboard to be dynamic, it means that the model does not hold constant values. Now, each time I use the word model here, I am simply talking about the container you are using to present your findings, your insight. In data analytics, generally, there are two models. It's either you use a tabular model or you use a graphical model to present your findings. Now, the factor that will determine whether you are to choose a tabular model or a graphical model is based on how quick or how fast you want to identify your trend, your patterns, and your outliers. Remember, I told us from the beginning that as data analysts, what we hunt for in data, what we look for in data, they are trend, the pattern, and the correlation or the outliers. Now, what we are saying is that for me as an analyst to easily identify any of these three items I just mentioned, then I will consider using a graphical model, because if I'm using a graph, I can easily, without wasting time, know the highest perform variable in my report compared to the tabular model. That is the structural way that I have highlighted here. So is that what we are saying is that the pivot table can either use a table to structure your data or use a graph to structure your data. Now, to still explain further, I said pivot tables are interactive and allow users to rearrange data dynamically. So that is the point I was trying to register. Now, with what I have explained so far, I expect that you already know the difference between interactive and what? Dynamic. For a dashboard to be interactive, in summary, before I leave the slide, it means that the collection of the report or the collected reports on that interface are connected. And then to be dynamic, it means that what? The report in those models can be controlled to change dynamically. That is, for 1 second, you can see the model analyzing different value. And then the next second, it changes to another what? Value. The next second, it changes to another value. So what is happening there is that what? The report model, they are dynamic. They are not static. Then interactive means what? They are connected. So that is the meaning of those two keywords. Now, let's look at why use a pivot table as a data analyst. Why is it necessary for me, particularly if I'm using Excel, to use this particular function? One, quickly summarize large data. So you can easily use pivot table to summarize your data. Flexible and customizable data analysis. So by the time we go to the practical aspect, you are going to confirm the flexibility and the ability to customize the default report generated by the pivot table. So you have the privilege of twisting the generated report by the pivot table to suit what you want. That is the customizable we are talking about. So you can easily reconstruct it to fit what you want or to give you the expected results. Now, pivot table helps in data-driven decision making. Of course, at the end of your analysis with a function, the goal is what? To make smart decision. It reduces manual calculation and analysis error. Like I started by saying, instead of us writing sum if, count if, you are going to see how we answer those questions swiftly with the pivot table without wasting time. So at the end of this function, you might retire some of those functions we have been using that falls under exploratory or data mining analysis. Now, the last one here is provide a clear visual presentation of data patterns. That is the graph that I've spoken about. You can easily visualize your findings with the graph. It has its own charts, which is different from the traditional charts we know. Now, let's look at some of the advantages. I just want us to have this information at the back of our mind before we dive into the main application. Advantages of pivot table: easy data summarization. That is still in the previous slide. Data analysis efficiency. Automatic data updates. We are going to see all that playing out by the time we have fully implemented it. Now, multiple views. So pivot table give me an opportunity to what? To view my findings from different perspectives. Data filtering, I can use it to filter. But we are going to leverage on a technology built inside it called slicer. That is what we are going to use to achieve the filtering aspect. So the word data filtering there in the simple term means data selection. Now, interactive reports, like I've explained before, time saving and no complex formula needed. I've said it before, you don't need to start thinking of writing formula when using pivot table. That is why pivot table is the best tool for business analysis. Now, when we say business analysis, what we are simply saying is analyzing business data for making business decisions. So it's just like a branch in data analysis. You will see some individual that will say that they specialize in business analysis. Why? Because they understand how to analyze business data than probably healthcare data or politics data or any other domain. Okay, so that is the general intro to pivot table. Any question to this extent before I move to the practical aspects? Okay, so if there's no question, then we'll now look at the data. So this is the data set I want to analyze with pivot table. Like I always tell us, always find out, study your data before you proceed with your analysis. It's very important. So supposing you are given this data set to analyze as an analyst, I told us that you take your time to go through the data to understand the variables in the data set. Why? That will help you in drafting an effective analysis questions that will eventually lead to presenting quality findings. a data set you don't understand, there are every possibility of you not coming up with reliable findings. So because it's one of the data set we have been working with, I don't want to spend too much time studying it. We are already conversant with this particular data set. Now, how do I approach pivot table? Now, the first step is for you to understand your data, which I have just explained now. The second step is for you to draft out your analysis question. Then the third step is for you to format the data as table. And then the last step is for you to now consult the pivot table. So step one is done, which means we have studied the data. Then step two is for us to draft our question. Now, looking at this data set, what are the possible questions expected to answer by an analyst? We have states. I could be asked to summarize all the basic salary per state. The company wants to know the total basic salary per state. That is one question. Another question could be, analyze the total numbers of employee per state. There you are going to use count function. The first question, you are going to use sum function. Remember, I told us that one of the unique feature of this function is that it's a powerhouse of different functions, particularly what? Statistical function. So it harbors a lot of functions. So depending on the question you are looking at. The first question, I am going to use sum in that same pivot table. The second question, I'm going to use count in that same pivot table. Now, let's assume that I'm working with just these two questions. Looking at these two questions, the next step is for me to format the entire data as table. Now, there is a reason why that is recommended. It's not as if it's compulsory. If you don't format your data before applying pivot table, sir, will it work? The answer is yes. So why do we have to format? The reason is for updation. For your subsequent entry to update automatically in your report is the reason why we are formatting as table, because when the data format is in tabular format or form, it enhances that updation. What I am saying is that if you look at this data, this is where it stopped, number 151. Now, if this is still an ongoing entry or project, it means that as at the time you are analyzing this data with pivot table, they stop at number 151. By tomorrow, when they make more sales, let's say this is sales inventory, or they employ more staffs, they are going to what? Enter their details here. The name of the person will be entered here, and then his what? Unique ID. The state is from, gender. Now, what I am projecting now as an analyst, I am creating room for future entry so that once they enter more information here, the company does not have to invite me back to start recreating my pivot report. So I want to program it in a way that once I'm done with my analysis at the moment and they enter new information, those new information will automatically, once I refresh, reflect in all the reports I will have created. So that is the reason why it is recommended that you format your data as table in order to support that update. Now, the question is, how do I format my data as table? Now, to simply do that, select the first cell. In this case, is what? A1. Then hold down the control and the shift button. Then hit the right button, the right arrow button, and that will select your entire data horizontally. Then while you are still holding down the control and shift, press down the down arrow button on your keyboard. That will select your entire data vertically. Now, once you have selected the frame, the area you want to convert or you want to format as table, the next step is for you to go to Home tab and select this function, Format as Table. So the moment I click on Format as Table, Excel will automatically prompt me some presets. Presets are already made format, pre-styled. So it's not left for me to choose which of them do I want to execute. So for example, there are different categories of this table preset. We have some under what? Light. We have some under medium. We have some under dark. Now, the one under dark, this seems to look like a 3D model object. So it depends on you actually. But I usually prefer selecting from this category, either what? Light or this. So there are some that you pick that will not activate the vertical line, as you can see their appearance. If you pick this, you might only have the entire record formatted with only the horizontal line without having the vertical line. But if I pick this one, or if I pick this, I'm going to have both vertical line and horizontal line. So the choice is yours. So I'm picking this. Now, the moment you pick that, Excel will highlight the range. What we are seeing here is the range $A. If you have been following me now, you know what I mean by $A. In my last class, I said whenever a dollar is attached to a cell or cell arguments, the argument there is A1. But how come we now have $A and $1? The reason is that it's fixed or is absolute, which means that what? You have automatically locked that axis, that no research or no search should be carried out outside the area you have highlighted. So what Excel is saying, you can see the selection icon moving here, which means that what? You have locked the sheet towards column A and toward through 1 down toward column T toward row 151. Now, sir, does it mean that if a new entry comes in, it will not be captured? But for the fact that we are formatting as table, that is the reason. Once they enter new information, the table will be expanding its rows automatically. So it means that you don't have to touch this particular place. But peradventure, you want to define it by yourself. You can just simply click here, and then you will now do the selection by yourself and cover the whole of the sheet, if that is your choice. But in this case, I'm going with already selected range. Now, the next thing you look at is this option that says my table has header. Now, ordinarily, if I uncheck this, what Excel will do is to give me additional headings. In other words, where you are currently having employee's name, you will now have something like column 1. Where you are having employee ID, you will now have column 2, and so on. But to avoid Excel creating additional columns, I will simply say I have my headers. Don't bother inserting additional headers. So once you have ensured that, you click OK. The moment you click OK, you will then see that your entire data set is now formatted with table. Now, just to verify what I was saying, let me go down and show us this. So, for example, if I enter a Prosper and I press enter, what did you see? You can see that what the Prosper automatically formatted with the table that I have installed. So you can see this is the reason. So once they enter new information, they don't have to go and format the entire record again as table because it will update automatically. So that is the reason. So let me delete it because I don't really need it, except I want to provide other what corresponding information about Prosper. All right, so now that you have formatted your data as table, now this data set is now set to implement your pivot table. Now, to implement our pivot table, there are actually two ways we can implement our pivot table. Is either we use the manually assigned headers to generate our report, or we use the recommended option. Now, the manually assigned header to generate report in pivot table is nothing but manual way of you creating your pivot report. I want us to see a pivot table as a reporter, a function that is reporting insights for you as an analyst. So what I'm saying is that is either I as an analyst, I manually choose the headers to develop my report, or I rely on the AI feature of this same command called pivot table. Now, the AI feature of it automatically scans through your data set and suggests some findings or some insight or some report for you. Then it is now left for you to look at those reports and see if they actually align with your intention. If they don't align with your intention, like I mentioned in my slide, they are customizable. You can reconstruct them, you can twist them, you can change them to fit what you want. So I'm going to start with the manual method, and then I will end it with the recommended or the AI method. Both of them actually have AI, but just that one is doing everything for you. But the manual method, at some level, at some point, you are doing some field work manually. Now, for me to use the manual method to generate my report, then at this point, I have to start focusing on my questions. What are the questions? The questions are, the first one says, summarize basic salary per state. And the second question says, analyze the total numbers of employee per state. So to start with the first question, which is the summation, I am going to highlight the entire data. I'm going to highlight it. So once you have highlighted the data, the next thing you are going to do is to go to Insight. So from your Insert, you click on Pivot Table. You click on Pivot Table. Now, this is going to be the second option, the one I spoke about. Now, this is the one we are using for now. This is the one we are using for now. Now, we are using this option, Pivot Table. So you click on it. So the moment you click on the pivot table, it will bring out a dialog box like this. So I want us to pay attention to how I am going to set up this pivot table dialog box. Now, we have two major options to consider here. The first one is choose the data that you want to analyze. Under this option, we have this sub option that says select a table, which we have already selected. You can see the selection icon here. Now, the second one says use an external data source, which means if your data is not here, probably want to import it from another domain. That is when you use this. Now, if you are working in some organization where they must have networked their system and they have a central server system whereby all record will fetch from their server or from their intranet. I'm talking about the internal networking in that organization. Then you are going to use this. So if you click on this option and the network has not been set up, then it will not work. So let's stay on what this, because we have our data here. Now let me go to the second option here, which says choose where you want your pivot table or where you want the pivot table report to be placed. Now, the report we are about to generate now, where will you like to have it? Do you want the report to appear in a new worksheet, or you want the report to be placed within the same sheet where you have your data source? Professionally, you are not advised or you are not expected to always present your findings on the same sheet where you have the raw data. I have said it before. You are expected to have a different sheet, and that sheet should act as your dashboard. Now, I am going to go with this, but because you are learning, I will implement this, then I will come back and go with this so that you understand the both method. Now, if I want the report to be in the same sheet with my data, then I will switch from new worksheet to existing worksheet. So the moment I click here, then this particular text box becomes active. Now, why is active? Is for me to choose where I want the report to be presented. So I'll make sure that I am inside this box and then touch somewhere. Now, in this case, I want the report to be here. I want it to be here. So I'm leaving this column as to separate the data set from the report I am generating with my pivot table. So I will just click somewhere here. The moment you click, you will notice that Excel will capture that location argument. And then all you need to do is just to click what? OK. So this is actually optional. Choose whether you want to analyze what? You want to analyze multiple tables. So I don't need that. I will just click what? Here. So you can see that at the moment, Excel is telling me that what? My report is empty. My report is empty. But like I told us, I'm not using this option. So I'm going to switch to the second option because that is the best practice. So I delete it. So I go back to I'll select my entire data set again. You go to Insert, click on Pivot Table, and then specify what? New worksheet. So once I click here, you see that what? It will automatically add another sheet. So I will simply double click on this sheet and name it my dashboard. Now, I want the order to be that my data set comes first before my dashboard. So I will just click here and drag and bring it here. So I have just switched their position. So I have my data first, and then I have what? My dashboard. Now, if you click on this pivot report, it will bring out what? These headers. I told us that I am teaching us the manual method. The manual method is where you as an analyst manually assign this heading to this what? Panel. So the whole of this place I'm navigating at is called the pivot table panel. Now, what the panel does, you can see that it's divided into 4 sections. So I want to take some time to explain what you are expected to do with each of these sections. We have the filter section. The filter section cannot be implemented until you have generated a report. Currently, our report is what? Empty. Now, the column panel is for analyzing string-based data. When I say string, I mean text, like Prosper. For example, now, states, you have text. You don't have numbers there. I remember I said we are summarizing basic salary, which is number. The value you have there, their number, against what? State. So state is a string, while basic salary is a number. Now, what I am saying is that you don't assign, you assign the state to what? The column or row. So both column and row, they are for analyzing text-based data, while value is for analyzing only number-based data. Now, to answer the question that says, let me write the question somewhere here so that we'll know what exactly we are doing. So I will just mesh this cell. I will say question 1, then write the question here. The question is what? We are to summarize. We are to summarize basic salary per state. That is our first question. So let me just format here. Though I don't need it because the pivot table will attach it, but just for us to know what we are working with. So if I click here now, it will bring out this session. So you will notice that if you don't select your pivot report, the whole of this section will not be active. Now, there is another way you can disable this. If I go to design now, if I go to analyze, and I turn off this field list, even if you click here, you will not see them because it can happen. So you can see that I'm selecting the pivot report, but I'm not seeing the field. But the moment I turn this on, then I can now access them, just in case you mistakenly remove it. Now, I've explained the panel. I want to answer this question. This question require or involve 2 variables, 2 headers. Remember I said the manual method is where you, as an analyst, manually generate your report by assigning the headers in that data set into this channel, into this panel. Now, if you are looking at the question that says summarize basic salary per state, basic salary is a header, state is another header. So what I am going to do here is to know which of them I'm to put here or here or here. Will I assign state here and put basic salary here? That is up to you. Like I just explained, you cannot put basic salary here or here because basic salary is a number. Numbers are not meant to be placed inside what? The columns or the row. This is the channel or the position for what? Numbering analysis. So what I'm going to do, if I drag state and put it here, you will see what will be analyzed. Pivot table function will automatically list out only the unique states. It's not going to repeat them horizontally. Now, I don't want a horizontal report. So if I now drag basic salary under value, you see what pivot table have done for me now is what? This is the total basic salary for Abia. This is the total basic salary for what? Abuja, and so on. But this is a horizontal report, which is not good. The report is too long. So what I will simply do is to change this state and bring it here. So I automatically have what? A vertical what? Report, which is the best practice. So the next thing I am going to do is to change the label to describe exactly the data I am having under them. Now here I have row label. What I have here is state. So I will simply select it and come to my formula bar and delete it and type state. Then here, I can reduce it if I want. I can remove this so that it doesn't conflict with the original label in your data set. I will just add underscore here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to format this to activate the grid line within this area. So I will select this down, and then I'll go back to my home. And then don't forget, you can also format it as what? Table. If you want to use any of this, or let's take it this way. Let's use borderline to format them. So I can just say all border, just to have it in a proper presentation. So we have just answered the first question. We have been able to summarize. Now, the next thing I want to do here, we have summarized, but they are not sorted because there could be another question. And the question is, after your analysis, which one is the highest? Which of the states generated what? The highest? Or which of the states have the highest basic salary? All these values are not sorted. So in pivot table, you can actually sort the value. And to do that, you simply select any of the value, any of them. And then you will see what? Sort. And then you click on either what? You are sorting ascending or descending. Now, for me to easily answer the question of the highest or the trend, I will choose what? To use largest to what? Smallest. So automatically you see that what? Delta is the what? The highest, followed by this. And then if you go down, you see what? Jigawa and what? Kwara with the what? The least generated what? A basic salary. So you will now go to your PowerPoint or your note where you are writing down your observation. At the end of each report, you are expected to what? To observe it, to study it, and write out what you find out, because that is what you are going to present to your stakeholder. That is what will be used to make those smart decisions, not these things that you have put here. As far the stakeholders are concerned, they are not interested in seeing this. All these are only useful to you so that you can draft out your finding, which will be presented for decision making. Any questions so far before I proceed, please? Please, you are free to ask question. Are we still here? Please, I want to hear from at least one person. Okay, let me call it. Mr. Vitri, are you following? Mr. Jolly, are you still here?
Yeah, just that, well, the level of following is what I'm not with, but it's not necessarily the lecturer's fault. I just, like I explained myself, I'm very strong.
Okay.
So let's just keep going. I believe I will. It's an
Okay.
interesting, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to do more of this. So I'm still going to be repeating some of these things. So if you don't get it at some level, you will definitely get it because we are going to answer more questions. So now remember that we have answered the first question that says summarize basic salary per state. So my next question, let me just copy the whole of this and just paste it here. Then I will just edit the question. So our question 2 is analyze total number of employee per state also. So there's a reason why we are answering this question. The reason is that had they been, after presenting this to the company, they now said that we want to also know how many employee basic salary actually what give us this value. So we want a kind of counting analysis, give us the breakdown of the numbers of employee that amounted to what? To this summary that you did here. So it will not help them to probably think in different directions. So they will not know why Delta states have the highest basic salary consumption. They will not know. They will not know whether, okay, maybe it's because of the level of staffs that are working them, or is it by number of staff? So that analysis will give us an idea to that. Now, I'm going to use a logic here. I don't have to start the whole process again because I want to answer this question. So I will simply copy this model, Control C. Now, this is a dashboard. Being a dashboard, it should be well designed. It should be well arranged. So I will form a design. So I'm leaving this space as a way of forming a design. So I'll paste the next one here, Control V. So what I did here now, I just duplicated this model, this report. Now, my intention is to use it to answer this second question. Now, but if you look at the second question deals with counts. And by default, Excel have already programmed your pivot table on sum. And that is the reason why what happened here is that it summarized. But this question, we have to change from sum to count because we are asked to count how many. So what I am going to do, the same headers are involved. I don't have to change the value here. So I will just switch the function from sum to count. And how do we do that? Just also right click on any of the value, just like we did for sort now. So once you have done that, once you have right click on any of the value, then you will see summarize value by. You can see the reason why is giving us summation. So I'm switching to what? Count. So automatically it gives me what? The counting breakdown of what you did here. Now I will also sort it so that I can have it aligned with the first model at least. So I'll go to sort again, then select what I use. So you can see that what sorted data did not have the highest number of employee, but it has the highest what? Basic salary. Probably maybe we'll have more admin people working there, or you can see that, but at least it's one of the top 10. So the highest states with the highest, or the highest state with the highest number of employee from this analysis is Anambra, followed by Delta. So when you are writing your report, there is need for you to write this kind of report where you say Delta and Enugu have the same number of employee. Then you now compare this to what? To the basic salary generated, despite that they both have the same number of employee. Then in your report, you also capture the states with the least number of employee. I have said it before. When you are analyzing or presenting your finding, don't just focus on the trend, the most occurring. Always focus, always attached to your report the lists, because that list will help them to know whether they are to change some of their strategy or their policies, in other words, for that particular variable or that particular value to come up. So you can see that if you come down here, you need to also note down in your report that you observe after your analysis that 3 to 4, about 4 states here have the same number of what? Employees, such as Jigawa, Akwa Ibom, Kwara, Nasarawa. They have the same number of what? Employees. Then you now find out from your report, your data, why is it that this what they are doing they are performing so poorly? What could be the factor? So those things that you are suspecting, you will now present them as your recommendation. You will now, like, enlighten them, bring their attention to those states that they should do something about those states. If on your own, you are able to factor out one of the things that will have led to that underperforming, then you highlight that you are suspecting this. So they will not know how to go about it. But if you ask me here, I will tell you that all these states, they are the northern part of the country. And this most company, based on what is happening, might not want to have their establishment there. Or maybe the states, maybe based on their products, maybe those states are not their strength, they are not their terrain. So there is no demand, high demand, and there's no way you expect a company to deploy good number of staff to a place where people don't patronize them much. Okay, so I am just trying to show us how you are expected to reason after you have been able to analyze. Now, the next thing I want to show us is you need to always learn to back up your report with a graphical visualization. I told us before now that in data analysis is about visualizing your report. And to visualize your report, you have two models. I've mentioned them, the table and the graph. So what we have right now is the table. The issue we have with tabular modeling or report modeling is that it is difficult for you to identify patterns. It is difficult for you to identify a trend and also outlier. For example, now, if I did not sort this data now, it would have been difficult for me to start tracing, comparing each state, trying to find out which one have the highest basic salary. But even at that, I will still be having some difficulty if I want to go down. I want to compare Bayelsa and another state now. But if I present this with a graph, it is easier for me to identify the trend and the pattern. So that will now take us to how to plot pivot report charts. So to simply do that, all you need to do is to select the report. But I needed to create more reports. I want to create like 2 additional reports here. And it means that I am going to answer additional 2 questions. And the reason is that I want to also show us how you can use another function instead of sum and count. There are questions that may be asked that will require average. If you are asked to analyze the average of a given number. So how do you go about it? Now, I will also copy this, Control C. So we are gradually developing our dashboard. I will Control V to paste. Now the question I want to answer here is, from my data set, I want to summarize the same basic salary per department, because all the report we have created so far, they are summary of basic salary based on state. Now the company also wants to know the summary of that same basic salary per department. Probably there are some decisions that will be taken from that your report. Now, the way I'm going to manipulate this, I just copied this. Now, if you look at my question, let me put it here and see so that we can be looking at what we are doing. So my question 3 is summarize basic salary per department. Just to have the same format, I'll click on that and then touch that cell. Then change my text color. Okay. That didn't work. Okay. So I could just click here and click here. Now, if you look at this third question, state is not mentioned, but what the model you copy has state. But basic salary is what's mentioned here. So what I am going to do here, I am going to drop state and replace it with what? Department. But I'm still what? And I will switch this back to what? Sum instead of what? Count function. So to do that, just simply select the what? The report. Now, if you come here, just uncheck the state, you have automatically what? Remove the state. And then check what? Department. You have replaced it with what? Department. And then you now right click on the value section and summarize by, switch from count back to what? Sum. So I've answered the question. Then I will now sort everything again so that I can easily identify what? The highest. Sort, so I have everything arranged. So you can see the way I am designing my dashboard. I want to create another report here, or probably I will have a graph here just to mix it up. So let me see, have another report here that will answer different questions. The question this is going to answer now, I'm going to go a little bit multi-level now. What we are answering since is one level question, one level analysis, one criteria analysis. We are only using one condition to what? To analyze. Now I am stepping to using multiple conditions. And my question is going to be, I am asked to analyze, to summarize the basic salary per department for only, and I should also give the breakdown per gender. Look at the question. What we have here now, we just summarize the basic salary per department. It's just one condition to use. But now it's going to involve two conditions. The first condition is summarize this per what? Department. So I need to change this label to what? Department, so it doesn't confuse me. Good. So the first part of the question is summarize the basic salary per department. Now, the second part of the question is now further give the breakdown of this value per gender. That is what, at the end of what I want to do, in this value, I should be able to know the percentage of male and female. In this value, I should also know the percentage of male and female. Now, to do that, it's very simple. You add the cells to that what? Department. You have given the what? The breakdown. So all I need to do now is to what? To collapse it. Let me collapse everything so that you see how it will be. Good. So the first question they put on you is that what is the summary of basic salary per each department? You outputted it. Now, they now ask you again, okay, out of this 5 million plus generated only from operations department, how much in this is for female and how much in this is for male? All you need to do in your office to answer that question, or maybe if you want to lift it out, maybe to your report, to your executive report, you just expand it. This plus means what? Expansion. Once you click, it will give you the breakdown. For female, in this, female generated this, male generated it. There, in your executive report, you also go there and write your observation. Then after your analysis, you discover that under operation, male have this, female have this, and from the report, male have what? The highest. You put it there because remember, the stakeholder may not have access to this report. So you will only be using this report to be drafting out your conclusions. And it is those conclusions that the company will use to make the smart decisions. So if you have written your observation on that, you can just collapse it and expand another one, observe again, write your observation, collapse it, the same thing like that. So this is 2 level. Now, if I want to go 3 level, 3 criteria now. This is what you were doing there with was some ifs, where we were busy tracing column, tracing row, tracing column. But you can see how we are easily what doing them here. Now, if the question now extend to, we want to also give the breakdown per what status. Inside this value, we want to know under status where we have married or what single. We want to know the percentage of married staffs that we want to know the percent of what married staffs in this value and the percentage of single staffs in the same value. What you will do, sir, you will just drag the status, add it again. It's already there now. So if I expand here now, you see what different what breakdown from what we have before. Now you have under female, you have the breakdown of what married and the breakdown of what single. Then under male, you have the breakdown of married. You also have what the breakdown of what single. So you can continue like that. If I want to give the breakdown based on the date of hired, then I'll also what add it there. All right. So let me answer one more question and then I'll go for the graph aspect. So I'll copy this, Control C. And then, like I said, I'm trying to use my report to form a design because this is going to end up being an interactive dashboard and dynamic dashboard. So I'll put it here. And the question I'm asking here is that this is sum. I am asked to analyze the average. So all I need is just to switch the function from sum to average. And then I'm maintaining the same what variables. So I will right click, like I said before, right click on any of the value, then change to what? Average. So you can see more function here. So now this is equivalent to what? Average, what we have before as the summation. So the same thing I will sort. Any questions so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's clear, right? For me? Give me 1 minute to come. All right. Now, so I want to create a graphical visualization of my table, like I have already highlighted as the reason why that is necessary. In order for me to easily identify my patterns, trend, and outliers. Now, I will start with this. I may not need a graph of this, but let me just put 2 graphs here, a graph of this and a graph of this, just for us to understand how to work with charts while working with pivot table. Now, pivot charts is actually for visualizing your pivot report. In other words, you must have a pivot report in the form of table before you can think of what? Representing it with graph. So you can start with the graph. So all I need to do is to select the report I want to create its graphical what? Copy. So once I have done that, I will go to Analyze. If you don't click on any of the report, Analyze will not be active. Design will not be active. Let's check it now. Let me step out. You can see that what those two tabs have gone. So once I select any of my pivot report, I will have them back. So once you select it, you go to Analyze. From Analyze, you will see what? Pivot charts. So once you click on Pivot chart, then it will prompt you different graphical tools that can be used to represent your tabular what? Findings or values. Now, as an analyst, it is now left for you to know the strengths of each of these graphs when it comes to data interpretation. So you are not supposed to just be picking them anyhow. You are to pick them based on the message you are passing. If you are analyzing percentage, the difference between one variable percentage and the other, the best graph is what? Pie chart. Then, but pie chart will only be effective if the categorical data are few. For example, now look at what we are doing here. The unique value here, because this is categorical what? Analysis. Because we have operation as one group. We have marketing as another category. Now you can see how many of them you have here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So where you have such number, then the best format or the best graph is like what? Bar or a column. Supposing there are just 3, I can use what? A pie chart. So let me just, for explanation purpose, let me use bar. The under bar, I'll choose the one that I want. So let's say I'm using this, I click. So automatically, I want us to check something. Always make sure that your graphs are placed beside or very close to the model. Let it be placed beside the table so that you can easily compare. And at the same time, you are forming a design. So I am leaving this space because I'm going to use a color to fill here so that to demarcate this from this letter. So that will be formatting. That should be the last thing you do after you have created all your report. You take your time to format it so that the dashboard will look very attractive. Now, if you look at what I have here now, the bars are not separated. So if I come here now and change what? This, you see what? We now have color. But if I click here now, we just have just one color representing all the variables, which is not good enough. So I want to be able to easily use color. This bar use its own color to differentiate it from the next bar. So all I need to do is to go to design and just select what? Switch. So once I switch, I will now have the color bars. And in presenting your finding, these ones are more communicated, they are more active. They are more active. Don't know what I did here. Okay, based on the graph. Yes, based on the graph that we are having this. So let me drop some of them on this so that we can have, let me have only this. Let me check what actually went wrong. It's like I pressed something. My report went back to, okay, I'm coming. Take it again, I'm coming. Okay, so let me drop all this so that the graph will not scatter. Now, like I said, just select this, go to Analyze, then click on Pivot Chart, and then choose one of these. I'm using this, so I just change it to another one now. Now, I was talking about switching it. So just come to Design and then switch. So you have color bars. Now, the filtering is the one giving us what? This. So I can select everything. So you can detail your graph. You can make your graph look more detailed. What do I mean by that? Just click on the graph and then go to design, then come to add chart element. And then I will say, okay, I want label. I want to write the value, but I don't think it will be necessary except I expand the column. I expand the graph so that they will not be too packed. But this is actually how you can attach the value to the bars. But in this case, it's more neater with this. Now, I'm going to plot another graph. Let me use this. Or let me use another report. Let me plot this. So I go to Analyze and select Pivot. So let me use this. Okay. So at the end of the day, you must have a way of arranging. You take your time, like I said, where you are through, take your time and arrange all the work. But right now, I'm just focusing on getting the values. Then I can also go back to my design and switch. So you can say that a pivot table report cannot what overlap. So this one is not switchable. Now let's see whether it's error from us. Let me take it off from here. Okay. So there are some other design. Maybe you just want to add background color just to be able to have your value more visible. So if you want, and make sure that you have unique formatting. You can go back to this and also choose maybe a color. So where you are presenting your findings like this, you have to use unique color in order to form a design. So just to be able to see everything we are doing, I'm going to delete some table. Let me delete some table so that we can have everything we are doing in one place so that whatever will be changing, we can be seeing it. So let me bring the graph, this one, let me bring it closer to it. All this my question. Just want to have good design at least. So we have deleted the report that generated this. So it could be this. Okay, this one. Okay. So let me put it here. Okay, so I just want everything to be in one place. Let's have another one here. This time around, I will use this. So just to use it to design this particular section. Then go to my design. I have some already made that I can take advantage of. If I don't want, I come here and design it by myself. So I prefer this. I can use this color, but go with other one. Then try and form a good arrangement. Okay, so let's say I'm working with this. Now, the whole of this cell, I will merge it here. Let me take time to do some design. And then give it a kind of color. select it, select the whole of the column, or let's highlight it to where you want it to stop. Format it. Then this particular section, I want it to also have that field. You are just trying to form a design. Then here, format this. Then you are trying to form here. There are questions that are not supposed to be here. So you can actually attach them to each of the table. Then here also. Okay, I'm trying to have a good dashboard. So if I don't have anything coming here, I will just find a way covering it. Okay, all right. So the last thing I want to show us before we end this session is what we call pivot table slicer. Pivot table slicer. Now, what is a pivot table slicer? Pivot table slicer is a kind of technology that is wrapped in the pivot table in order to help you to filter. In my slide, I mentioned that that place I use the word filtering. We are going to use a technology called the slicer. So the slicer is just like a controller. It's what we use in, controlling all our reports. The slicer can be connected to all these reports in a way that currently this report, this table is analyzing the summary of basic salary from all the states. Now, if I want to see only Delta states in this model and across all the other reports, then I have to bring in a slicer to filter out only the Delta state record across all the reports. So that is where you need a slicer. So how do you bring the slicer? You click on one of the reports. You must activate it at least with one report. After you have done that, then you go to the same analyze. Then from here, you will see what insert slicer. So once I click here now, it will bring out all the headings in the data set. So I want to be slicing based on department or based on states. So let me start with department. I will just activate it. So that is what a slicer for analyzing each of the department across all the reports, because in all the reports you have department record. In all the states we have departments. So for example, now if I click on, so this is the reason why I have to bring all these reports in one place so that you can be seeing them. So I want you to pay attention to what will happen here. Once I select audit, that is, I am about to answer another question. Let's assume that I am presenting to the audience and I am asked that, sir, what you have presented here is the summary of basic salary from what? All the department. Now, supposing in this report, we want to view only two departments. Let's say what? Audit and compliances. From here, those are the only record we want to view here. That is when you bring in the department, because the question mentioned what? We want to view only two departments. If the question I've mentioned, we want to view report from only two states, then what you will have brought in as your slicer will have been state. So let me bring in another slicer. You can actually insert multiple slicer. Go to insert again, select here. Let me bring state so that I can also filter based on state. So this is department slicer, and this is what? Oh, sorry, I selected the status instead of state. So I click on the report again, go to analyze, select slice, and then pick what? State. Then I click. So this is my slicer for slicing or filtering state. Now you need to also find a way of, designing your dashboard with the slicer. So those spaces that are not covered, see how you can fish can use the slicer to either cover them. So I want to see whether if I position them like this, it will make sense. Okay. All right. Now, let's answer the first question. The first question is that from this report, we want to select only average basic salary, some total average basic salary for only two departments, compliance and credit. If it is only one department, what you do is that you just select that. You see that as soon as you click on that, it affected the model and the graph that was generated from it only, but other ones are not affected. The reason is that you have not connected this slicer to other reports. This slicer was created when you selected this particular report. So now for me to connect this slicer to other reports so that each time I pick this compliance, it will analyze on this graph, analyze on this graph, analyze on every report that you have here. You will now click on the slicer, then go to option, then select report connection. So once I click on report connection, it will list out all the generated reports with the pivot table. You can see that it's active on only this. So I will simply check all of them. I will check all of them and then click OK. So as it is now, this slicer will now analyze all the reports. Now I want you to observe. I am going to click on compliance. Put your eyes here, here, and here. You see that it will automatically highlight or analyze across all the reports. So if I click here now, you can see it. It analyze here, it analyze here, and it analyze here. The reason why this one did not analyze, we have deleted its report, its table the other time. So now, if I want to undo it, I want to bring it back. Because right now, what you have there is just report from only one department. How do I bring back other departments? I'll click on this red icon here. That will bring back everything. Now, but the question says I should analyze audit and compliance. So this time around, I will hold down my shift button and click on audit and also click on compliance. Then I remove my hand. So the two of them, sorry, if shift did not work with your system, just use control. So let me try it again. Control. So control work. So what you have right now is the selection. No, what you have right now is that these two that you selected, they have been exempted from the report. So which means that if I want only two of them, then these are the ones I will hold down the control and select. I will select all this, in other words, to turn them off so that we have only the ones that are not selected. Then I can bring back everything. So we are going to stop here. We will continue from this. So in our next meeting, which is on Friday, I will conclude the pivot table. We still have one or two things, and then I will now introduce us. Or it's either I conclude it that Friday, then on Saturday like this, I will now start Python. So I want to stop here so that you can go and master all this first. Thank you. If you have questions, you ask before we.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, sir.